Welcome, welcome to the Reed Report. I appreciate you guys for taking this time to hear me out here on the Reed Report. And today, uh, because it's the summertime, because football season is almost back, and last year we did a series following the Carolina Panthers leading up to their regular season, and of course we covered them in the regular season because the Panthers were an interesting team going into last year in 2022. I remember reading the article, reacting to an article in here as them being tagged as the chaos team of the NFC South, and I really believe that the Panthers had a chance to win the division. I really thought this team, they could, of course they're not going to go all the way, but they have a chance to win this division. I thought they had the talent equipped enough, and of course, if Tampa had been much better than what we expected, Carolina would not have stood a chance. But the Panthers were not, they 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 were only in it because the Buccaneers were not good last year. And the Panthers at 2-6 and just this horrible record at NFC South. We remember how horrible the NFC South was. And it kept Carolina alive, along with New Orleans and Atlanta. But the Panthers were an interesting team because they started the season with head coach Matt Rule, and then they got rid of Rule. They benched Baker, or Baker got injured. I forgot which one happened, but they brought in Steve Wilkes, the defensive coordinator, and then they brought in what's my guy name who started at quarterback? PJ. They brought in PJ as the quarterback, and Sam Darnold was hurt at the time. But they brought in PJ and they eventually went to Sam Darnold while they were still alive. I think PJ, I want to say PJ got injured as well. I want to say he got injured as well. But they brought in PJ and he played good football. And it proved what it proved was how important coaching was and quarterback position. But we already knew that. We knew both those things. But if you want to see a clear-cut example of it, look no further than the 2022 Carolina Panthers. They were a clear-cut example of the importance of those positions because Baker lost games. The Panthers lost games that they could have won. They definitely lost games that they could have won. And I'm gonna actually go to their schedule over here, and we're gonna look at my opinion on some of the games the Carolina Panthers last season could have potentially won had it not been for poor coaching and poor quarterback play. So let's go to some of those games right here. We're gonna blow that up. This is their schedule this year actually. This right here is this year's schedule, but let's go to their schedule from last year. Last year, the Cleveland game, one they definitely could have won. You had the Giants game, a winnable game. And they ended up with 7 wins. So there's 8, 9. This was a winnable game. 10, lose. This is an iffy, so we'll just keep it at an L. Winnable, 11, beat down. Winnable game, 12. Winnable game, 13 and 14. So they could have won 14 games, the Carolina Panthers. They could have very easily been a 14-win team and ran away with the NFC South's crown. And who knows where it would have taken them from there. But that was last year. This is this year. And this year, we're going to be doing the same thing we did last year leading up to the season. Just following the Panthers, really, because, I'm not a prisoner of the moment. I really believe the Panthers were going to be a good team last year. And a lot of people I know, friends and stuff, they were just saying, like, dude, you crazy. Carolina is not going to be what you think they're going to be. They're not going to be that team. But this year, different. This year, it can potentially be different as well because they got a new young quarterback we don't know well. They did make some big splashes in the free agency with Miles Sanders. Adam Thielen drafted a nice receiver. But I wanted to, without further ado, just react to this article I saw by ESPN writer David Newton, no relation to Cam Newton. And the article is titled How Panthers Andy Dalton is Embracing Role as Bryce Young's Mentor. We know Andy Dalton been in the league for about, 13, 14 years now. One of my favorite quarterbacks early on. He could never get over the hump and win a playoff game in Cincinnati, but had some success there with A.J. Green and Marvin Lewis. But now he is on his, he left Cincinnati, cut ties with him. Where did he go? To Dallas after that, New Orleans, Chicago, and now he's here in Carolina. Well, he was in New Orleans last year. And now he's here in Carolina helping Bryce Young, our #1 draft pick, as his mentor, because Andy Dalton can teach a thing. He can teach some things. So I really like this move. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the actual article here. Talking about the Panthers again, how Panthers Andy Dalton is embracing role as Bryce Young's mentor. Again, by David Newton. It says Andy Dalton threw his arms into the air as the football zipped through a tight window into the receiver's arm during a red zone drill. Touchdown. You could sense the excitement. It was just a moment from a recent offseason workout, but it reminded anyone who saw it that the competitive spirit Dalton had in 2011 as a second-round pick by the Cincinnati Bengals still exists as he begins his 13th season in the NFL. This one with the Carolina Panthers, and it's crazy because I remember Andy. It's crazy to think it's been 13 years. Remembering when Andy Dalton was selected in that same draft as Cam Newton, Von Miller, and all those guys in the 2011 draft. It's crazy to think that this is where we are now. It was a reminder that the 3-time Pro Bowl selection still has the talent to be a full-time starter, even though he accepts that his role is to help mentor Bryce Young, the #1 pick of the 2023 draft, become the Week 1 starter. So helping him become the starter in Week 1. Says here, I definitely think that I'm still one of the 32 best guys out there, Dalton told ESPN.com. A lot of people say that. You hear Cam Newton say that, and it's good to have that confidence. But anyway, let's keep reading. But I know that's not the position I'm in. My whole goal is to kind of be the example, and not necessarily set the standard, but show how it's supposed to be done. Plays like Dalton made in the red zone are a good example of why the 35-year-old might be the perfect mentor for Young. He's practicing at a super high level, Coach Frank Rich said of Dalton. And of course, coaching change for the Panthers, also something new that took place for the team during the offseason. I wasn't upset. I like Steve Wilkes. I wish he would have stayed on. I understand why he left. He's in San Francisco now, because when you do a job as good as he did, you feel like you earned that position, and he did. But I'm not mad that Frank Rich got the position over him, because I want an offensive-minded guy there. I think the Panthers' blueprint, no pun intended, has always, defensively, they've never really, in recent years, been a terrible defensive team. It's offense that they really need to step up at, because I think once they get that down and have the defense to where it was last year, and especially in 2021, sky is really the limit for this team. So I do like the decision to bring in Frank Rich or Frank Wright or whatever as the head coach. Back to the article, he's practicing at a super high level. Coach Frank Rich said of Dalton, I don't want to sell that short of how impressive he's been on the field. But equally impressive is how he's handled the role he's in. Knowing we drafted the #1 guy, how he's helping him, but still competing with him, knowing what the plan is. Of course, you got to have Andy Dalton out there not, like taking it easy and not really showcasing what he's really about, because he has to make Bryce Young better. That's his position. He understands his position, and that's what I love about this decision to bring him in. He has to make Young better by not taking it easy and going out there really competing and showing him what it takes to be a starter in this league. The plan is to have Young ready to start the September 10 opener at the Atlanta Falcons. The former Alabama star has done nothing to suggest that won't happen, given the way he has progressed in Rich's system and offense. I'm just so used to it. Dalton gets that, reminding us that he's not here to compete with Bryce, and that as soon as Young shows he's ready, he'll be named a starter. That's why Young gets more repetitions in practice and spends as much time with the first team as Dalton, who is still listed first on the depth chart. Make him earn it. Make him earn it. Show him that he's not listed number one on the depth chart, Bryce Young, that big. Put Andy Dalton up there to give Bryce Young something to play great for in these training camp, in these practices. So that's not by, chance either. They're not just going to automatically throw him up there as the number one guy. They're going to make him earn it. It says, but for me, personally, I'm going in with the mindset of I want to show everybody the type of player that I am. Said Dalton, who in March signed a 2-year, $11 million deal with $8 million guaranteed, making that money. In doing so, Dalton has shown the kind of person he is. He has put aside the ego that goes from wanting to be the starter and use that energy to help show Young what it takes to succeed. Bryce has learned from him, not just by listening to him in the meeting room, but by watching him, Rich said. Anybody who talks to Bryce knows he's immediately and intellectually your equal. But Andy has a lot of experience, and what I love about Andy is he's not overdoing it. I think that's a very important thing as well, not overdoing it. He's that perfect balance of just enough, but not too much. I love that quote. The situation is similar to 2011 when the Panthers drafted Cam Newton with the top pick and signed 5-year veteran Derek Anderson to be his backup, understanding that Anderson could start if needed. Definitely the case. Anderson was, I believe, a former Pro Bowl quarterback in Cleveland with the Browns, and definitely one of the best backups in the league during the time Cam Newton was with the Carolina Panthers. Derek Anderson really did his thing. He helped us, I believe, in 2014 when Cam got into that car accident and Cam was out. And Derek Anderson won, I believe, he started 2 games that year and won both games that he started for the Panthers. But I like the comparison. Anderson understands the situation and set of circumstances. Then Carolina coach Ron Rivera said at the time. Okay, so this was a previous quote back in the day. But at the same time, I told Derek, there is no reason to accept a back seat. Dalton is taking that approach. I don't think saying I'm okay with being the backup is the right phrasing of it. Dalton said there's a reality of it. Regardless of the role that I'm in, I had been in a lot of different roles since my 9 years in Cincinnati, but I've played everywhere that I've been. It's crazy to think, went from Cincy to Dallas to Chicago, New Orleans, now Carolina. After 9 years in Cincinnati, but this is what happens. This is where he is now, and I know that I'm capable of doing it. Dalton started 133 games in 9 years with the Bengals, going 70 and 61 and 2. And one of those ties were actually to the Carolina Panthers in 2014. That actually helped us get into the playoffs. He went 50 and 26 and got Cincinnati to the playoffs his first 5 seasons, twice as division champion. His biggest downfall was going 0-4 in the playoffs, throwing 1 touchdown pass to 6 interceptions. Yes, he did not fare well once he got to the playoffs, and one of those times he got injured, and I believe was it AJ McCarron or somebody like that, the former Georgia or Alabama guy who started for him in I think that playoff game they should have won in 2014, I want to say, or 2015, one of those seasons. The one where we remember Antonio Brown getting laid out by Buford or someone like that. But one of those games he didn't start in one of those playoffs games. But yeah, he did not have a good showing in the postseason, not at all. Anyway, let's go through this article. More of this. But Dalton ranks 4th among active quarterbacks with 86 career wins, trailing only Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford. Definitely, definitely an accomplished guy. Definitely. His 13 wins in relief the past 3 seasons with the Cowboys, 4 4-5, Bears 3-3, and Saints 6-8 is nearly as many as the 17 the Panthers had during that span with 5 different starting quarterbacks. I've always liked Andy Dalton. I think he is a very productive guy. I think, in the case of, injury or Bryce Young just not being ready, Andy Dalton is more than capable of holding his own. I still think he's capable of doing that. I still think I don't think he's going to carry us to the playoffs, but I think he can win enough games until we can get Bryce Young to where we want him to be. So I'm definitely comfortable with that. He ranked 9th in passer rating, 10th in completion percentage. I'm just reeling off some stats. Let's just get to more of this article. It says, there's just a moment to where you're okay. I know the position that I'm going to have to step into, Dalton said, of being a backup or mentor, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I view myself that way. Young, for one, is super grateful to have Dalton. Finally, we're getting to some Bryce Young quotes here. I'm asking a bunch of questions, he said. I'm watching him with the operation, how his feet are, how his eyes are. He comes back, he'll talk to me saying why he went there, why he went here. Really, how he carries himself, how he conducts himself. He's clear with all his stuff. Quarterbacks coach Josh McCown, former Cleveland Brown as well, said Dalton has been invaluable teaching Young things like huddle presence. So that's pretty much the rest of that article. We'll just finish it up with this last quote. He says, wanting the competition, wanting to be the guy out there that helps your team win, that's never going to leave, Dalton said. And as soon as that does, I'm going to stop playing. So that's the article. You can, again, that article is by David Newton, Carolina Panthers writer for ESPN. Like I said, we're going to do more of these, reading these articles, reacting to them, talking about the Panthers. Again, excited to see where this season takes the Carolina Panthers. Last year they had a chance to make the playoffs. This year I think they have an even bigger chance. Of course, we're going in with uncertainty on the guy we drafted, a rookie quarterback. But with Frank Rich, Andy Dalton, and all these dudes, man, with what the Panthers have put in place, Miles Sanders, my fantasy running back last year, I'm excited to see where the Panthers go. So, again, appreciate you guys for taking the time to hear me out. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll be back here with more articles to react to. They won't be this long generally, but I just wanted to read that, get through that, and react to that. And tell me what you guys think about the Panthers. Tell me what you guys are looking forward to the most this training camp. Appreciate it. And peace.